So what I really wanted to do with 518 Talks is I wanted to create something, an element that allowed us to capture the energy that we see in our community at the moment. And what I mean by that is never before in history, and I like history, right? So one of the greatest times that I ever saw was like the Harlem Renaissance, when you had all these wonderful businesses, music, you had art, you had fashion, you had all these things. So in being a lifelong resident of Schenectady and Capital Region, what I find today is I find myself celebrating the efforts of my friends and even people who are not my friends. I see so much work. Miss Tabitha for the school board, my friend Mike and his brand Elevate and Conquer. Kaheem Priest and the work they do with Ketchup Enterprises, the Wolfpack. Shout out to the Wolfpack Wealth Group in the back. Eugene, Made in Truth Clothing. I look at the youth, I see the inspiration, I see fashion, I see clothing, I see music, I see all these things, and I say to myself, I feel like the state of our community is in good hands. Is everything perfect right now? No. Are we still dealing with a lot of trials and tribulations? Absolutely. But I am inspired by the things that I am seeing. I am inspired every day seeing on social media the work that people are doing. I'm inspired by watching Carmen Duncan. I'm inspired by seeing Jamaica Miles outside with Roman in 2-degree weather, standing up and fighting for social justice on a regular basis. I am inspired by the things that I'm seeing. So I went to Brendan with this idea of capturing this energy, of capturing this moment, of capturing this time, and that is where you are right now. That is 518 Talks. I had to ask myself the question one day, if we don't capture our history, who will? In 20 years, when the city of Schenectady is changed or unchanged, who is going to tell the story of what happened? Who is going to tell our youth or the future what we've done here today? I look in the newspaper and I don't always see the faces of the people in the community doing the work. The same faces that I see in the crowd at the marches, the same people I see at the PTO meetings, the same people I see fighting for our youth and their education on a regular basis. I don't always see the same faces. So I wanted the opportunity to capture that. And that's what this is. So without further ado, right? Because I think we're ready to go. Brendan, we ready to go? Awesome. We have a great lineup of speakers tonight. Give a round of applause for Mr. Quito Delgado. Let's give another round of applause for, where is she? Miss Carmen Duncan. Let's give another round of applause for Miss Jamaica Miles. And let's give another round of applause for Mr. Kaheem Priest, in no particular order. No. That's absolutely not the order. The order we're going to go in tonight is Quito Delgado, Kaheem Priest, and we're actually going to let the ladies close out the show tonight, which I think is going to be awesome because they're going to close it out and send us on our way. So thank you guys for coming out. We're going to start. Our host this evening is Mr. Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara. I thank him for taking the time to come out here and be with us tonight. But I wanted to kick the show off with something special. So I have a good friend coming up here to bring you some words of inspiration, a poem by my friend and my brother, a wonderful individual, Mr. Kareem Toure. Give him a round of applause.
How y'all doing tonight? No. 518 Talks. How y'all doing tonight? Thank you for inviting me, having me here perform. I'm going to do 2 poems. The first poem is going to be a triumphant poem. The second one is going to be more of a Black history poem. So here I go. She said, my penmanship was the equivalent of the universe in length. Beautiful beginnings with no end. And my pen, the perfect syringe, injecting all the right dopamine in her arteries for her to be addicted. She asked me questions of interest, like, what has this done for you? What is this? I respond in an instant. You see, this has opened my eyes. This helped me survive. Therapeutic at times. Touch, feel, describe. Reach. The language we speak put my mind at ease, my mind at peace. This me, this you, this drink, this food, this curse, this gifted, this options presented, this decisions you live with, so choose. This tunes that soothe, this him, this her, these words, this is earth's flowing streams, Flow with ease, meditate, be at ease. This is tranquility. This move on, baby, move on. Keep pushing through that storm, baby. Grow strong, baby. Be all that you can be. Be free, like birds hovering overseas, stretching their wings. This emancipation, liberation. You're elated because you're elevated. This take chances in the making, so take it if you chasing. This race is amazing. This open your eyes. You walking with God, the greatest of highs, and you wonder why, but don't wonder why. Just be inspired. Be that fire. Be that dream. Be the eye that sees no color, but an eye that sees a sea of humanity. This whatever you want it to be. This is lessons, blessings. This is clutch. This is that lift you up when times get tough. This is love. This is you seeing me, displaying the artistry my heart bleeds. And that is the greatest thing of all. We medicated all to avoid the fall with this painkiller called poetry. This is poetry. This is for you, and this is for me. So when you ask why, just laugh, don't cry. You know why? Because we gonna be all right. I said we gonna be all right. I said we gonna be all right because all our life we had to fight. So 518 Talks, I ask you, is that all right?
All right.
Excuse me for a second.
What's the ad information? Instagram?
Good question. I'll give it to you after this. All right, here's the Black History piece. Black history is amongst us. So it's time to debunk the lies they try to pass as truth to me and you. This is the time of fact and fiction. Did you know Wakanda really existed? It was back in the time of antiquity. We were really advanced in math, science, technology. People who looked like me. Black, unapologetically. And ain't we the ones to make struggle motivation? Giving birth to innovation. And ain't it evident we be the evidence? No, we ain't dripping in finesse. We dripping in straight melanin. And we be the ones to let our minds be the locking force, our brains to be the vice grip to grasp the fact. We be an ecstatic punctuation. Tongue professing exclamations like she's sweet, bubbly brown, sugar sensation. She's the mother of civilization, the way she's cradled nations from Ethiopia and abroad. And yes, we know we be the best. And yes, we know what the Kool-Aid tastes like because we be the makeup of the flavor. We be the realization. We be the revelation. We be the alpha, the omega, the beginning to no ends. And we be beginning to end. With hymns of poetic evangelical serenade of the day, we were told to wait and stay. A historical cultural kickback from the whiplash of our ancestral enslaved backs, and yet persistence is in our DNA, and yet resilience is in our DNA, and yet I think we'll stay and fight because tomorrow is promised for those who prepare for it today, so they will continue to contest it from the inherited greatness. So go on, black man, express it. Rumble, young man, rumble. Black woman, express it like the way you find the ability to defy these odds, so floats like butterfly, yet sting like bee. Exercise your exquisite dichotomy. Don't you see? We be all that in a bag of chips. Don't you see? We be. I said, don't you see? We be. I said, don't you see? We be. Now who we be? We be black as coffee, strong as hope, and sweet, yes, oh so sweet as love. We be black excellency, don't we?
Wow, what a powerful way to open up the show. Let's give him another round of applause. That was powerful. Terrific performance. I want to thank Will for giving me this opportunity to be involved with 518 Talks. Let's hear it for 518 Talks. It's off to a great start, and I've been following the show. Very powerful show, and one of the three categories that I want to highlight with the opening of this show: strength, opportunity, and challenges. That's what this show is about. That's what our community is about. I grew up here in the city of Schenectady. My parents are both immigrants. I didn't speak English till I was in first grade, and we talk about the challenges in our community that existed back then. They still exist now. Challenges we face, and I'm sure Jamaica, one of our speakers, is going to talk about this. Public education, and I can tell you, I went to Hamilton Elementary. I went to the Schenectady City's school system, and I can tell you, without my teachers, without that structure in place, I would have never made it. Education, public education never gave up on me. Now, being a representative in the state assembly, to be able to fight for the families that are going through those same struggles now, really meaningful to me to come back to the city where my parents left their homes overseas to come to call Schenectady their home, and to find opportunity. The opportunities that we fight for every day, whether it's fighting for public resources like our libraries, whether it's making sure we make investments in our community, in our neighborhoods to strengthen our communities, connection, the infrastructure that we need. We see in Schenectady, the infrastructure has a tremendous need, especially in our neighborhoods. These are things that really make a difference. And to have a platform like this to be able to talk about these challenges, because identifying the needs is the first step. And then fighting for what you need to make that happen, that's the next step. So Will's really leading the way, and it's been so great to be involved with him and the many paths that he has chosen to have his voice heard. But really, Will is about empowering other people, empowering our community. That's what this show is about. That's what Saves Our Streets is about. We just talked about the random Santa drop-offs that we did, I think, for the third year now. Whoever heard of just randomly going out giving gifts around the holiday season, to be able to be a part of that and experience it firsthand, to see the difference that you're making, to provide that hope. We just heard about hope, to provide hope for people in our community. That really makes a difference. It's a grassroots effort. It supports what I'm trying to do at the state capitol, to have people like Will and the organization that's behind him. He's about empowering youth, and to have people visit me up at the Capitol and know that, hey, you're making a difference by having your voice heard. Very, very important. And the strength comes from what we're doing as a community. Having proctors, having the platform to be able to have your voice heard, having public access, television, whatever the platform may be, social media, having these accessible and understanding the power of them and engaging our community, very, very important. So with that, I want to thank Will. I want to thank everybody here. We have a great lineup, some very, very great speakers. We had a great opening. Those poems are super powerful, and we have a great lineup of speakers today. So without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker, who is Quito Delgado. And he is a sales leader who helps deliver solutions to organizations that attract and retain top talent. While following the Department of Labor and IRS standards, he's been able to deliver solutions, as I said, and attract and retain top talent. He was a student in college where he earned a full scholarship to Northwestern University. Very, very impressive. His passion lies with inspiring others. It's exactly what we're talking about today, to push themselves towards their goals and motivate them to share their stories and to spark that change that we're talking about today. He lives in Schenectady County, Niskayuna, with his wife and his 5-year-old daughter. Let's give him a big round of applause and welcome up to the podium.
Good evening. How we doing? Good. Now, Assemblyman, thank you for the introduction. But I promise you I will not be talking to you about payroll services and the IRS and employee retention. That is what I do by day. But one thing I want to tell you, in case no one's ever told you, is that you have a story to tell. We all have a story to tell, and that's really what I'm going to be talking about tonight. But before I get to that, I was always taught that you always start everything with a little bit of gratitude. So I want to just thank William for putting this event on. Let's give him a round of applause. I want to thank all of you for finding a robbery to come out for tonight. I want to thank my parents. I want to thank my extended aunties for coming. And last but certainly not least, it's a school night, and my wife, she's a teacher, and then my beautiful 5-year-old daughter, Melina, she has pre-K tomorrow. So it's a late night for them, so thank you guys for coming. So tell your story, right? So what I'm going to be doing is telling you a little bit of my story, but then also sharing the stories of others along the way that hopefully will eventually inspire you to tell your story. And however that path may look, whether it's in your careers, whether it's your personal life, whether it's making a transition, whether it's just to make a change in how you approach your life, I just hope it helps you along the way. So born and raised in Schenectady, went to a very small school, Notre Dame Bishop Gibbons. And I played basketball, but I really excelled at football. So the first story I want to talk about is how I was a really big fish in a small pond. So one day, my high school coach, he came to he came to my parents and he said, hey, I think Kito is pretty good at football. I think he should go to this event over the weekend. I was like, okay, sure. I didn't know what I was doing. But my parents trusted him. They wrote the check. I went to this event at Holy Cross. And all I know is, he said, Kito, just do your absolute best at whatever you have to do. Run around. So they put me through all these different drills. I had no idea what I was doing. Run the 40-yard dash. Do the bench press. I was like, Coach, I've never done the bench press in my life. He was like, yeah, don't worry about that. Long story short, I was actually at a showcase. They call it a showcase, a combine that allows college coaches to watch you play. And that was my breakthrough. I ended up getting a number of scholarships, and that's how I ended up first at Boston University. That's a different story, but then I ended up transferring to Northeastern University. But the first thing I want to talk about highlight is the fact that I was prepared for that opportunity. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just trusted my coach. I went and I performed. So the first thing I want to say is it's better to be prepared for an opportunity that never happens than to not be prepared for an opportunity when it does show up. And I just want to say that I was prepared for that opportunity because of that, I was able to go to college, earn a full scholarship, graduate with no debt, have a lot of life lessons, play my favorite sport. So now how does this all tie in to playing sport, to telling your story? The reason why I wanted to share that backdrop is because my athletics, that's always played a big part of my story. And when I graduated high school or college, and I didn't, like 99.9% of college students did not go pro, I really struggled with that because I identified myself as just an athlete. And now here I was like, wow, I'm no longer playing sports. What am I? So yeah, I got married, I had a child, I was a sales career, everything was fine, but I just wasn't fulfilled. There was just something off. And what ended up happening was just wasn't the healthiest eater, wasn't working out anymore. I never really liked working out to begin with. I only worked out in college because I had to, because they paid me to. But I gained a lot of weight. And I always had some confidence, but my confidence was just shot. It wasn't where it needed to be. So then I finally started to go to the gym, started working out. I'm eating a lot better, and I lost a lot of weight. And during that process, I started to discover some of my passions, which is storytelling. Along the line, I also discovered podcasts. I loved listening to podcasts. And one day when I was at the gym, I'm working out. Now this is about 3 months, 4 months in. I'm starting to lose the weight, getting my strength back, my confidence, my range of motion. Everything is going really well. And I was like, wow, like this is cool. And then finally, there's these boxes that you have at the gym. And the trainer would all of a sudden say, hey, Kito, I want you to get on the box. I was like, get on the box? So maybe I was supposed to be doing push-ups. Now she wanted me to put my feet on the box to make it harder, to expand my range of motion, to make myself challenge myself a little bit more. And I was like, get on the box. I like that. So I'd always liked podcasts. I love listening to stories. So now I started looking for podcasts I realized all these podcasts that I have, they're cool, but they're always interviewing athletes, always interviewing actors, billionaire owners, people that I and most people just can't relate to. I was like, I want to start a podcast. I can do a podcast. And I decided to launch my podcast called Get On the Box, Tell Your Story. And I tell you, that's my first lesson I want to share to you is you just have to get started, right? You can't, so let me back up a little bit. So I thought about the title. Actually, I didn't think about the title. I had another title. It was called Boss, Be of Some Service. That lasted for about 2 episodes. I was like, that's not it. And I remember, though, it was like the summer. I had been drinking a little bit. I wasn't drunk or anything, but I was feeling good. And I was just like, all right, Keto, you keep talking about launching this podcast. You keep researching. You keep trying to tweak everything. It's like, you just got to start. So I took out my phone and just hit record and recorded myself rambling for 10 minutes long. I uploaded it, and boom, Boss, the podcast was launched. And so I just want to encourage you, the first, thing I want to share is like, just get started, right? Get started. And now I've done, 70 episodes, something like that. I changed the title. I changed the music. Everything's a lot better with the podcast. And I always tell people that you can't perfect a process that you never start. You cannot perfect a process that you never start. So I just want to encourage you just to get started. Get started. So now, you may be wondering, okay, so tell my story. How do I tell my story? What does that look like? And I always, when I talk with people or work with people, I try to tell them that, the number one thing you need to figure out when it comes to telling your story is you have to allow yourself, A, to be vulnerable, but then B, you have to also figure out what makes my story interesting. And the number one thing you have to do is you have to stop thinking that your story isn't worth being told, that your experiences aren't worth, sharing, because your stories are. Maybe you're a single mother. Maybe you battled addiction. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe, you lost a loved one. Whatever the case may be, it's your pain, it's those struggles that you went through that allows you now to tell your story and solve the problems of other people. So along the line, as you're telling your story, really embrace your pain that you've gone through in your life, because that pain allows you now to identify problems that other people may have. And then once you're able to solve the problems of other people, I like to say you get to monetize your problems. You monetize your problems. And I'm not saying this is all about money, but you want to monetize your problems. So the bigger the problems you can solve, the more money you can make, right? But in order for you to get to that point, you have to also now ask yourself, what do I know more than anybody else? What do I know more than anybody else? And if you can't answer that question, well then I'll just tell you that you have not found your passion. Because even if you don't know, you don't have to be an expert, but your passion will make you seek answers. It'll make you you'll discover, how to solve the problem. You'll want to become an expert. I'm not going to have anybody raise their hands, but I'll tell you right now, if you go to work and you're not passionate about your work and you're given an assignment, it's like pulling your teeth to go search for that answer because you're not passionate about what you're doing. But as soon as you find that passion, you'll stay up all night long figuring that out, right? So ask yourself, what problems can I solve? And also, what do I know more than anybody else? And you have, I'll just say, the place to start from with yourself is that you do have a PhD in me. You have a PhD in me. So you take all those life experiences that you have, and you say, being a mother makes me X. Being a father makes me X. Being a fired employee makes me Y, right? Being a college athlete helps me do this. Being a teacher, managing a 5-year-old, being married to a husband that has all kinds of ideas helps me do what? Those problems help you solve, those experiences allow you to solve the problems of other people. But I saved this last part for the very end because I think this is the most important thing. We talked about problems and solving them, talked about telling your story. But at the end of the day, you're not going to tell your story if you don't have a why. You have to attach a why to it. And I'll just tell you on this, in case you don't know, money cannot be the reason why you do what you do, right? Money cannot be, because money fades. You're gonna have a lot of ups and downs along the way, and if you're making it just about money, as soon as you hit a roadblock, you will quit. You'll say, it's not worth it. The time is off. I'll get it next time. But when you attach a why to everything that you do, you're going to find the answers. You're going to persevere. You're going to just be your best version of yourself. So I just want to encourage you to really figure that out. Like, what is my why? What am I doing this for? Who's counting on me? I have a daughter who's counting on me, right? Wife counting on me. So I'm not motivated by money, but I'm motivated by the fact that I want to give my daughter options. I want her to be able to say, hey, Mom, Daddy, I want to go to this school. Okay, where you want to go? And not worried about somebody telling us how much money they're going to give us. Like, no, we'll cut the check if that's what it takes. I hope I don't have to, Melina. But if that's the case, I will, right? I want to be able to provide, a certain lifestyle for my family and give us, experiences, right? So you don't have to be motivated by money, but you have to attach a purpose, and it can't be about money, but it also can't just be about you, because it's easy to quit on you, quite frankly. A lot of people have already quit on themselves a long time ago, but when you make it about somebody else, it's very hard for you to just throw in a towel because you know that person is counting on you. So I don't know how much time I have left, but the last thing I do want to talk about, because again, I can answer questions afterwards as far as how you go about like the strategy, and again, whether it's starting a blog, whether it's starting a podcast, whether it's starting your own business, having a side hustle. There's a lot of different things we can talk about, in the time together. But the last thing I just want to really share with you is the why people don't tell their stories. So I already talked about it. I think the first one is that they don't believe they have a story to tell. I think we've knocked that out. But the second one is they are afraid of failure. They're afraid of failure. And I don't know why this is the case, and I'm not blaming it. Adults, I'm an adult now, but I'm not going to blame adults. I'm not going to blame the teachers or the parents, but I will respectfully say that a lot of times what ends up happening is that it's the adults who don't reach the heights that they want to reach. And now, as a result, they want their child to play it safe. Don't do that because this will happen. Or don't. And I just want to encourage you, just as a parent, here is just to share with you all, is teach your children that it's okay to fail, right? And now reteach yourself that it's okay to fail, right? Don't be afraid to fail. So what? You mess up. My first podcast, it was trash. It was so bad. It was the worst production. Just do a search, get on the box, and then listen to episode 1. I'm like, oh my goodness, like it was terrible. But I started, right? So don't be afraid to fail. And I'll just close this out with one of my guests, Darren K. Roberts. He was an awesome guest, and he went to Harvard Law. And going into his third year, he decided he wanted to be an NFL coach. An NFL coach. And I was like, wow, you want to be an NFL coach? He's like, yes. I said, what'd you do? I was like, well, first I had to finish out I had to finish it out. I wasn't going to not, finish my law degree. So he did finish, at Harvard Law, but he wrote a letter to 32 NFL teams. Now, mind you, we had no experience, saying he wanted to be a coach. 31 of them said no to him. And then finally, the Kansas City Chiefs said yes as an unpaid internship. Herm Edwards, who was the head coach at the time, he let him do it. And I just remember asking him, I was like, Darren, like, 31 teams said no. Like, how did you keep going? And this is what I want to, share with you is he says, well, listen, Keto, the way I see it is a no already. Like, you're already starting from a place of no. Whether you do it or not, whether you ask or not, whether you try it or not, it's a no. So you might as well go out and find out if you can turn that into a yes. So that's what the fear about. Like, don't become, obsessed with and afraid of failure. Believe that you have a story to tell. Believe that you are worthy to share it. But most importantly, and this is what I'll leave you with, you don't tell your story for you. This is the key. This is the irony of all of it. You don't tell your story for you. You don't tell your story to to pad your ego, to make all this money. You tell your story to bless others, to serve others. There's somebody in this world, and I want you to think big. Not your coworker, even though they may, not your friend or your neighbor. There's somebody in this world that is counting on you, that needs you, that would be disappointed in you if you don't tell their story. They need to hear your story. So that's all I have. That's my time. I thank you for it, and I hope this has inspired you to get on the box and tell your story.
All right, Keto Delgado, everybody, let's give him another round of applause. Did I tell you you're in for a great show today? Absolutely inspiring words. I think everyone can relate to what he was, the message he was saying. And who's ready to get started after that? Everybody's ready to get started? Yeah. And everybody has a story to share. That's absolutely true. Everybody, through their life experiences, through their challenges in life, this is what gives us compassion, wisdom, perspective, our challenges in life. And you will find that you have a story to share. But what he said is correct. You have to believe in yourself first if you want others to believe in you. So excellent message. Thank you again to Keto. And our next speaker, Kahim Priest. He's here today. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, I know he's, I see at least one person live streaming there, so I see a couple of iPhones up. Kahim takes pride in the love of others as well as building long-term relationships. Over the past 10 years, he's played a key role in the success of many businesses, social events, and assisted with career management for some of the top talents in the area. He has a few businesses of his own, but his biggest accomplishment is being an outstanding marketing strategist, as you will hear in a little while. His area of focus is coming up with creative ideas that build platforms to give his clients the spotlight that they deserve. He is most active on social media platforms, as we just said. I think he's live streaming right now. And he pushes content daily. If you follow him, you would know that. A large portion of his content is based on giving his viewers an uplifting push, understanding his own development, his own business development life, and the direction he believes what's going on in the world, and how to take on the world in full force. So we're very fortunate to have him here as our next speaker. Let's give him a big round of applause and welcome him up.
I don't think I'm gonna use the mic. I don't know. Look, it's the height. No, I'll use the mic. I feel like I wanted both of my hands. Hello, I'm Kahim Priest. No, I don't do mics.
You gotta do it for the recording, man.
Oh, okay. All right. Ooh. I'll get away from that. It's the height requirement over there. I don't like it and all that. You know what I mean? But I'm Kahim Priest. Thank you all for coming out and just thank Will, for doing this 518 Talks. So I started as an event coordinator, you know what I mean? I did a lot of club events, and it actually turned into me being more of an event planner. I do weddings, I do social media, I do social media marketing. I really don't, dang, do I really have to use this? So I'll use this. I don't like mics. I got a minute now. Okay. I like to move my hands around and all that. It gives me that little swagger that I need. But so I started as a nightlife promoter. Shout out to Damani, he's in the building. He actually gave me one of the biggest chances around the time that Sneakies was big. You know, he allowed me to promote his events, and it allowed me to become, you know, a social media influencer. You know, I've been able to have reach with tons of children, adults, and so forth. So basically, it actually started there, and so I turned that around, and I ended up starting to do event planning for weddings, and I started doing social media strategy. I do social media strategies. So what I do is I help build platforms for clients as far as spotlighting what they do. You know, this gentleman right here, he has a clothing line, you know, and everything deserves a spotlight, you know, and it takes someone to actually take the time to spotlight what other people do and help build their revenue. So I don't like how I did that. I just don't like mics, but at the end of the day, I'm going to get it done, because at the end of the day, nothing beats a failure but a try, and I know my mother's here with me, and that's all I got. So at the end of the day, so my journey started in 1980. I ain't going to say 1989. So I was counted out before I even knew how to count. You know, I was a child, you know, put in, you know, have had doctors feeding me medicine, saying I had ADHD. I'm a child. What are we talking about here? How can I have ADHD? You know, they would try to stop my flow of thinking and my movements. To me, I think a lot, so I think they just wanted to slow down, you know, my generation. But we'll keep that for the sciences and all that. But so at the end of the day, I was put in classes that I felt I was beneath. You know, I felt like I didn't deserve to be in, you know, smaller classes, because I felt like I couldn't learn, and I felt like I was counted out since a child. And the direction I went in, more or less, was to show that anybody can do anything they want, you know, no matter what anybody says about you. You know, they counted me out when I was a kid, and now I'm able to, you know, help others build their businesses, and I'm able to do social events that bring out thousands of people. And again, shout out to Damani Farley, you know, for believing in me. But so I come from a family of my brothers and sisters. I have a twin brother. I don't know if you guys know DJ Ketchup. I manage him, and my brother Unique Priest. He's an amazing dancer. DJ Ketchup. He's an amazing entertainer. I mean, this guy, he has this swagger about him. You know what I mean? Like it's different. And then, you know, and then my sister, she graduated at the top of her class in college. She went to Long Island University, and she's just brilliant. And then there was me, and I'm like, dang, I'm around all this greatness, and where's my greatness? You know what I mean? What does this world have in store for me? And for a second, I didn't know what I would be. I didn't know what I could do, and I kind of lost my way. I kind of lost who I was. I didn't know who I was. I was basically what we see daily. We see people living, but they're not living. You know, like if you ask me, I was just a dead man walking. I had no sense of direction. I had no dreams anymore. You know, I used to always want to own a car dealership, but something in me just said, I just lost all my dreams, you know. And growing up, I started realizing that I think I was trying to make my father pay for not being in my life. I felt like I was trying to make this man pay, like, you know what, I'm not going to do good in school. You know why? Because you're going to pay. You know what I'm saying? And I started realizing that this man's not paying for any of my mistakes, you know? And I wanted my father so much, and I had a great mother. My mother, I mean, I don't know if you could see the tie under the list. Yeah, she made sure that we kept up with ourselves, and to think that I was making all these bad decisions on the people I was hanging around just because I wanted my father to pay, you know? And this is the first time I actually, believe you me, this is the first time I've ever even talked about this, but I felt like I was like doing everything to let him know, like, you don't know what you were missing out on. You know, you don't know the life you were missing out on. And then I had to think about it. What life is he missing out on? You know what I mean? What am I doing? What am I doing that would make him feel like, wow, I should have been there for him? You know what I mean? And so I started doing events at Sneakies. I was an artist. I started performing at Sneakies, and my following started to build. You know, my so my following started to build, and we started doing events in Troy, Saratoga, Schenectady, all around the capital region, Boston, everywhere. And I felt like, you know, there's something to this, and I can't allow, you know, the things that I've been through to you know, take a big like, I can't let what happened to me ruin my future. You know, I can't let the fact that, you know, I didn't have a father. There's probably a few people in here that didn't have a father. So who am I to sit here and act like because I didn't have a father, I should just give up and just be a zombie just walking the world. So we actually just started doing community events. We started doing a lot of community events. My mom, Lorraine Priest, she did a lot of community events. She ran the Friendship House. She allowed me to learn under her, and still I felt like I was like missing what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? I knew I always had a way of me to be able to spotlight people. I knew I was always able to say, nah, this is you. I see the best in everything. I see the best in everyone, you know, like I see a vision in people that they might not see in themselves, which I was talking to the young lady over here about. Is it used to get me mad, like, why aren't people being the best them? You know, why aren't people going for what they want? And I had to look at myself, and I'm like, wow, I'm not going for what I want, you know? And I started a marketing company, a social media marketing company, and it started doing well. I was able to market for Seat Center, Sitting Comfortable, a very big label. Triple Threat, my brother owns Unique Priest. He owns a gym called Triple Threat, and I had people taking notice about what I've been doing, and I'm sitting here saying like, wow, I think I got something, you know what I mean? I think I got something. And my mom said, even though your brothers and sisters are doing them, God has a plan for you. You know, he has a plan for you. And I'm sitting there saying, Ma, you know, I'm thinking that's the mom thing to say, you know, oh, you have a plan. All right, Ma, I hear you. I ain't got nothing. I'm be living with you all my life. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going nowhere. So I went on my own. I went on my own way. You know, I ended up having a daughter in 2014. My daughter's we're about to be 5 now. Her name is Kyla. I have two daughters now, and they've been. I call my first daughter. I call her. She's my wake up call. You know, my first daughter was my wake up call, and my second daughter was my push. She pushed me to be the man that I am today. You know, and I want to leave a legacy for them. I want to leave something for them that they knew that their father was a man that wanted to see everybody succeed. I want to see everybody do good, and I felt like what could I do that would leave a legacy for them, you know, and leave a legacy for my family, and I realized that it was me being who I am. You know, I when I was younger, I lost sense of myself. I was very loving. I was all about the love, and I think my first girlfriend hurt me. I don't know. I think it was her, you know, but I just felt like I went in this mindset where I gotta be the bad guy. I gotta be the Chris Brown after this, that situation. I gotta be that bad guy, and I'm sitting here saying, I don't have to be him. I should be myself, And I learned to be myself. I learned that, some people look at my shoes like, oh, you got cowboy boots on. Yeah, that's cool. That's me. I had to learn to respect who I was and love me, and it hurts me to know that it took my mom died in September 27th, and I felt like I found myself with the loss of my mom. I felt like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I want to say today. That's why I was kind of a little shaky. I'm like, nah, do I want a mic? Yeah, we're going to do the mic. You know what I'm saying? Because I know my mom is right here. My mom is right here with me. And at the same time, I looked at it like, who am I not to, try when, who am I to lose patience in who I will be when my mom's fighting for her life to not be a cancer patient? Who am I? Who am I to stop, believing in what I know I could be when she's yet to stop fighting for her life? And it woke me up. And my mom always told me nothing beats a failure but a try. And this kind of touches on the subject, as the gentleman said. To me, nothing beats a failure but a try means at the end of the day, you can fail, but because you tried, you truly didn't fail. You know what I mean? Because you went for it, there's no way you could fail if you try. And I do that every day. I try to do everything I can to try, because I need my daughters to see that at the end of the day, as long as I try, I don't fail. I don't fail. You can't fail if you try. There's going to be a lot of things that you think you can't do in life. I'm pretty sure you didn't know you would own a clothing company. I never thought I would own an event coordinating company. I never thought I would own a marketing company, a nightlife company. I never thought these things, because I was truthfully feeling like I was counted out since a kid. I thought, and I went with it. It is what it is. I ain't gonna do nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be just like everybody else in my community, because this is the mindset they were giving us. And I'm sitting here saying, with the help of Will and with the help of Damani and older influencers, I was sitting here saying, like, I remember these guys. He hates when I say this, but I remember when he was my counselor at Camp Lovejoy. You know what I mean? I remember him being, this older guy who cared, I remember Damani with the braids, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if y'all remember Damani with the braids, you know what I'm saying? But I remember these times where these men that were just trying to find their way were trying to find their way. And I'm sitting here not being patient with what's going to happen for me. And I'm sitting here saying, like, these men were patient with what happened to them, I'm now able to, when I don't have meetings thanks to Damani, I'm able to be in a lot of the schools in the Schenectady School District, and I'm able to build a foundation with these children as far as so what I do is it's called culture broking, and we build a gap between the community and the schools. And I've been able to reach out to so many kids, and it's changed my life. It's changed my life, and it allowed me to understand that I was one of these kids that didn't have a way. I mean, the teachers that see me in the high school, they sit there and say, like, wait, hold on, Kyle, that's you? And I grab my tie, tighten it a little. Yeah, that's me. But they just look at it and say, wow, like, the man you are today, like we would have never thought. And I said, well, I don't think they counted me out, but at the same time, it's like I feel like we could be better together than farther apart. And if you understood what I was going through, because a lot of the teachers didn't know what we were going through. You know what I'm saying? I'm going home and I'm sitting here saying, like, I want my dad. You know what I'm saying? I want my dad, but I got my mom. I have my mom is an amazing woman. And it used to hurt me to think, like, dang, I'm doing all this to hurt my father when really I should be doing all this to show my mom that you did a great job. And this is why I came here today. You know, I don't speak too much. You know, I'm a silent win. I let DJ Ketchup do all that, but I wanted to take a chance, and I say, you know what? I'm gonna get up in front of them and let them know that at the end of the day, nothing beats a failure but a try. You could do whatever you want. I'm a living testimony of it. I literally never thought that I could go. I just today, I was able to go to a dealership and they told me to pick any car I wanted. So I picked my favorite car. I never thought I could do this. You know what I mean? I never thought growing up that I would be the man that I am today. And I just want people to know nothing beats a failure but a try. And again, how he said, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. You're gonna fail at a lot. You know, I actually started a weight loss thing too as well. And I had to learn to portion my meals. And I'm like, man, I'm not no little guy. Like, I can't be portioning these meals. I need seconds and everything. And I'm sitting here saying, dang. And now after 2 months, I'm down 32 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Like these are things that I thought I couldn't do, but it's truthfully mind over matter. You know, it's mind over matter. And I just want people to go for what they want. I want people to be the best them, you know, grow into the best you, because there's nothing we can't do. This world kind of tries to give us so much information to the point that we forget what's real and what needs to be highlighted, you know, and it's you. It's who you are. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you without the money? Who are you without the cars? Who are you without the houses? Who are you? Who? A lot of people can't even answer that question. They don't know who they are without, you know, the chains and the outfits and stuff. And I had to learn, like, yo, I'm back in it, like, I'm going to get the True Religions for $200-$300, and really, like, my mom, like, oh, you got money. Oh, you got money, right, Kyle? Or you can pay bills and stuff. I'm like, dang, Ma, you're right. I should have did this. But I tried to fit in so much, and I had to realize that I always stood out. You know, I always stood out, and I had to follow that. So what I'm able to do now is I'm able to use what I've done in my life to help younger kids. You know, I'm able to help kids my age, a little older, that still have this thought that this is the only way. You could do anything you want. You could truthfully do anything you want. Did I think I would be an event planner? Did I think I could ever put a wedding together? I never thought I could do these things. You know, I never even wanted to do these things, but it came with the territory of being a promoter and so forth. So I never thought someone would give me the key to their business and say, listen, bring us into the right direction. You know, hold on, I don't even know what direction I'm going in right now. So at the same time, and my goal is really to be able to bring my daughters to meetings and show them at the end of the day, like, you're able to see your father, the man that you know to be everything. You're able to see him lock in contracts, so men could never hold those trophies over their head that most men use for women. And this is me speaking to women. It's time for you guys to step out of the shadows of men. It's time right now. And I want to thank Will for letting them go last, because at the end of the day, I'm nothing. I'm not the man I am today without my mother. You know, I'm not the man I am today, and I want my daughters to never have a situation where men are holding their trophies over their head. Like, what? My dad did all that. He did it. What? Oh, you got nice cars. You got nice. Oh, he did that. He did that. What do we? You have to come with a bond and a love with my daughters. And I'm talking to women when I say this. It's time for you guys to step out of the shadows, because at the end of the day, I'm nothing without my sister. I'm nothing without my mom. I'm nothing without my grandmother. And most of us are nothing without you guys. You know. So at the end of the day, it's time. It's time. This world will never change until you guys take lead. You know, like, and I believe that. I believe that you guys create. I was created. and there was two of them, and I don't know how my mom did it. It was twins, and I'm like, whoa, hold on. That's crazy. But at the same time, you know, nothing beats a failure but a try. I love you, Mom. I didn't go on my I had some things written down, but I freestyled, and I'm like, I appreciate you guys taking the time, and if follow me on my social medias. I mean, I'm in that realm. Follow me on my social medias and watch me grow. I mean, this isn't the last time I would be up here doing something like this, and I want you guys to see the growth of a person who never thought that they could do what they're doing right now. I've never done this. I've never sat up here, doing this, but I'm going to get better and better. And I appreciate you guys for giving me the chance to be up here. And I want to leave nothing beats a failure but a try. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. And thanks, y'all.
Thank you for sharing. Nothing's more important than family. Thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for sharing your words. And some of the things that you talked about, seeing things in others, believing in others. And sometimes people don't see things that you see in other people. And that helps people to become what we're talking about here, to become the best version of themselves. And certainly doing that starts with community. It starts with our neighborhoods. It starts with investments. And my next speaker is going to be talking about this. Because she's no stranger to the Capitol. Jamaica Miles is here. Let's give her a round of applause. And Jamaica is up at the Capitol very often. She's up there fighting for a lot of the things that we're talking about here today. She's going to be talking about her work with Citizen Action of New York. She's a proud mother of 4, a member of Emmanuel Freedom's Baptist Church, and she believes that all people deserve dignity, and has worked for more than 13 years in the nonprofit sector for national, statewide, and local organizations to help create positive societal change. Her background and past experiences as a woman of color from a low-income neighborhood influenced her core values and made her aware of the lack of social justice for people in similar situations. She's made it her life mission to serve as an advocate and a leader to end racism, oppression, and all forms of bigotry. She has organized and led community meetings with thousands of attendees, and she sacrifices each and every day to make the world a better place and to never stop fighting for equality and social justice. I'm very fortunate to have her in our community, very fortunate to have her advocating here, and she's up at the Capitol. Believe me, when she's there, we know it. Let's give her a big round of applause, everybody.
So I had said to Will, I'm like, he's not reading the whole bio, right? Because I only have 15 minutes. I took notes. I totally tend to ramble, but I wanted to make sure that there were some really solid points with this opportunity to speak today. Thank you, Will, for having me. I want to talk about collective leadership. It's actually a foreign concept to the larger society. It's foreign to us here in the United States. It's foreign to us here in New York. It's foreign to us here in the Capital District even, and I'll speak really specifically to that. When we think honestly about our lives, we're not and should never be alone. We shouldn't be isolated, but we often are told our individual selves are the only selves we should think of, even though we yearn for the collective. We look for places that we fit in. We want to be part of some form of community, and being in community and having support and being supportive of others, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Regardless of the idea of, if you tell someone that you had help, that's a negative. You're supposed to do everything by yourself. And if something is wrong in your life, it is only your responsibility. That's how we're told to think, as opposed to the reality of the collective. And really, collective leadership is amazing. I've seen it in action. Collective leadership allows us to not just be our full selves and our true selves, but it allows us to create systemic and institutional change. It allows us to create change that impacts our lives and the lives of others. That's what collective leadership is. So under the current hierarchy and systems and policies and laws, we're told that it's just the individual, as I mentioned. If your life sucks, it's your fault. If you can't provide for your family, your fault by yourself. If you got someplace good, don't tell anyone that you had help. I'm here to tell you I had lots of help. I by no means could have gotten to where I am today if I was doing it by myself. This does not mean that I as an individual did not work hard, that I did not struggle, that there was not pain, that there was not these traumas in my life that I had to work through, but I by no means would have been able to do it by myself. And when I was alone was the absolute worst time in my life. But with my squad, with my posse, with all of those people around me, I am absolutely unstoppable because I'm not alone. That's collective leadership. But we don't want to remember those types of collectives, right? The message is we should not have collective memories. We should not remember collective traumas or collective pain. We're supposed to forget those things. We let them go. The place where we're allowed to be a collective is if we're to paint a brush of our collective, to be a monolith of individuals. That's them. Then we're allowed to be a collective. As a matter of fact, it's usually lifted up. See those people, it's a negative. A true collective is a positive. The resources that exist for the few would not be accessible without the same collective, the collective they talk about. The manual labor of the masses that has been unpaid and underpaid for the entire history of this country. Those few who would have us look at the minimal examples to dissuade us from the reality of our collective worth and collective power, dissuade us from seeing how powerful we truly are, and lead us to believe that they have all of this wealth because somehow they worked harder than the rest of us. When in reality, I have seen some of the hardest working people with nothing. They work hard, they fight, they struggle, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, taking care of loved ones. But they can't afford to buy a new pair of shoes. And when they can, they buy them for someone else. That's hard work, but they don't have a car. They don't have a fancy house. But somehow they're told they're not working hard enough. We're not to look at the other pieces of that puzzle, the systems and institutions that perpetuate their poverty. We're not supposed to look at those things. We're supposed to just look at the individual. But let's talk about the strength of collective leadership. When we look at the greatest moments of positive change, change that increase the scope of humanity, dignity, and respect, during those times, it has been about the will of the collective to make those in power do something they did not want to do. Government is about the collective. Government is not bad. It's about being able to provide for the communities that they represent, right? And being in the community is not to say that we should just, quote unquote, take care of ourselves, because the purpose of our government is to protect and provide for all, the entire collective. Not just some, not just certain groups, but all of us. To create policies, laws, budgets, and procedures that protect all of us from violence and provide resources we cannot do so individually. And when I say to protect us from violence, I don't just mean by being mugged down the street or someone physically attacking us. There are other forms of violence that many of us have faced day in and day out in our lives, and some of that perpetuated by the systems that currently exist. Violence against our being. Our government is to protect us from those things. The worldview and racial justice that I live by are key to those elements, elements of social change. We talked about this earlier today. In many communities, change is not possible because dominant power relations are maintained through the power to shape people's understandings of the world in ways that prevent them from asking questions or seeing any possibility for change. If the message is perpetuated that you are supposed to be there and you cannot have more, over and over again, we begin to believe it. There was a time that I used to walk down the street in Schenectady, and if I saw a black man walking toward me, I would cross the street. He looked like my brothers, but I was led to believe that he was a danger because it was perpetuated. I no longer cross the street, and I always say hello. Because we can't change others if we can't change our own way of thinking. This kind of power operates in the arena of worldview, cultures, myths, stereotypes, and values. It is exercised in part through control of the institutions that shape and create meaning. Institutions including schools, religious places of worship, the media, television, mass consumer culture, popular ideas about government and about workers and bosses. Understand me, I'm not painting the brush that every religious house is one of oppression or that all schools are bad. I'm painting that there are foundations that have been used to oppress people in those institutions. I am a proud member of Emmanuel Freedom's church because it's a church that leads with a racial justice lens. It's a church that speaks openly about the oppression that Christianity has caused. It speaks openly about the idea that all religions are good religions. It is the interpretation of man that makes them wrong. And that if a religion is oppressing any group of individuals, it's not the religion's fault. It's the person perpetuating that word. And the same is true of our media and television. We all went crazy about Black Panther, because how could we possibly see that much beauty that looked like us on the screen when we've spent so many years being told that we are just drug dealers and prostitutes? That's what TV used to tell us. Until now, 2019, so 2018, all of a sudden, there was Black excellence. No, there's always been Black excellence. But it's perpetuated in systems and institutions. As I mentioned, the wealthy would have us believe that they've worked harder and are more deserving than people that work 60 or more hours a week and can't provide for their families. Somehow, we're to be mad at the poor and not mad at poverty. But that's hard work. We're told that everyone has the same opportunities, but our schools don't all have equitable funding. No way I'm leaving here not talking about education. Let's be real. This all started around education. We talked today about my journey with education and why it's so important. If you tell me that there are school districts that are worried about losing an equestrian club, that's about riding horses. I had to learn that. And that's the same as our children not having enough books in their classroom. Or that there are classrooms that are made out of hallway closets. That there are districts where students sit on top of desks while someone else sits in the chair at the same desk. And that when we look at those classrooms, they are predominantly Black and brown. No, everyone doesn't have an equal chance. And that's not about the individual, that's about systems and institutions and policies. And the only time they've changed is through collective leadership. We're also told that it benefits workers when we give the highest amount of money to those CEOs. We should give tax breaks to those CEOs because it's going to trickle down economics. We'll give them the money and then workers are gonna get paid more and it's gonna be an investment in but that's not what we've seen in reality, that when we give more money to those who already have the wealth, they keep it for themselves. And they still cut jobs. And they still close plants. And that doesn't change without collective leadership. We saw it here locally in the Capital District on more than one occasion, that when the bosses said, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna cut benefits for union members, or we're going to cut these number of workers out of this place, they had no reason to change their minds until we came together as a collective. And it wasn't just a collective of the workers. Understand that. It wasn't just the workers outside saying, we won't have this. There were the supporters, there were the allies that came forward and said, you know what, I'm not going to support this business because now we're affecting their dollar. And the whole reason they did this was for their dollar. But our collective power made them do something they had no intention of doing. The last point being that we're told we shouldn't regulate companies because it hurts them financially. But it does protect us, right? And government's supposed to protect us. And those regulations protect us because when we don't regulate them, we see things in the water in Hoosick Falls that make people sick. We see soil samples in the south end of Albany where children are getting sick, where it has the highest rate of infant mortality and maternal mortality, that the air, the water, the soil has been poisoned. But we're not supposed to worry about that because there's a company someplace that's gonna bring us a couple more jobs. And maybe some of us will get it if they don't hire from outside of our communities. Those things continue to happen except for the moments when our collective leadership and our collective power creates a change where we say no more. We are deserving, all of us, whether it is because you disgrace us by your presence simply because of how you view us based on the color of our skin, the zip code we live in, whether or not we were first born here, if English is our first language, whether you agree with who we choose to love, that you have made this decision that our collective, whatever it may be, is not one worthy of the same dignity and respect that your small few is. And from time to time, the few that are in power will lift up someone that looks usually like me, a light-skinned Black person, and says, they made it, anyone can. No, it doesn't work that way. Because that was one person, and we are not a monolith. We are a collective. We absolutely are a collective. And the larger we grow, that collective power, the more change we can create. The more likely we are to see in generations closer to mine, because I do have 4 children, 23, 14, 7, and almost 20 months. And I don't want my youngest son to be standing on a stage like this in 30 or 40 years, talking this same talk and saying, my mother used to say. I'd rather it be that he's sitting at home talking to his children and his grandchildren saying, look at what happened. Look at what we did as a collective. And so that all of you know, my job, my actual job, I get paid for it because capitalism still exists, so I need to be able to pay rent, right? And I want all of us to actually have a living wage, and that won't happen unless we collectively demand it, because New York does not have a living wage, and New York does not fully fund its schools, and New York does not prioritize our bodies, and those things won't change until our collective is large enough to make that happen. And my job is to help create that collective leadership. Not because it doesn't already exist. Understand me, there are so many leaders that are on the grounds right now, but we're not all together. And there are people who don't know that they're leaders yet. Maybe it was their first time doing public speaking and they've never spoken in front of a crowd before. And they don't know how to do that. Or maybe they don't know how to plan an event or a rally, or what's the procedure to be able to talk to your assembly member in Albany. How do you do that? I have information that allows us to be that stronger collective. I found a purpose, one absolutely blessed by God, that allows me to help create the change so that our collective leadership creates the world that every single one of us deserves. And that's collective leadership.
We're very fortunate to have such a strong advocate, and what the issues she talked about, they're real issues. They affect everybody. As we said, education. I shared my story with education. I wouldn't be standing here without public education, and there are families now that are struggling because the resources just aren't there, and it affects generations of kids. It just does. I have a son that's in special education. So I see it from both sides. The special education, the needs are just not being met. She mentioned unions. She mentioned companies that take advantage of workers. They just do. Over time, that's what happens if the regulations aren't in place. My father worked at General Electric for 30 years. If he wasn't part of the union, he wouldn't have been there that long. He wouldn't have been able to provide for us. I grew up in Mount Pleasant. He barely spoke English. Without the protection of the union, would not have been able to survive. And unions are under attack right now because unions are about workers. So it's a question of which side are we on here? Are we supporting the big companies, or are we going to stand with the workers? I'm going to stand with the workers. I'm going to stand with the people every single time. That's what Jamaica, her advocacy is about. And she's here on the ground and at the Capitol, and she's making it happen. Collective leadership, that's exactly right. Our voices are stronger, much, much stronger together. And through one thing she didn't mention, she's very good at it, through the power of social media, you can find more people to join the cause. And everyone here has the power to do it. And Will knows this as well, because through whatever platform that you're on, you can find people that share those same struggles. As I said, my son was born with autism, and I found that there's thousands and thousands of people that struggle with the same challenges because the resources just aren't there. But very powerful message from Jamaica. Let's give her another round of applause. Thank you. How are we doing, Will? We're good on time? Okay, all right. It's been a great show, and I told you it was going to be a great show. And before we go any further, I got to thank Brendan is here, and I got to thank the OSM team for filming, for all the work they do behind the scenes. Thank you for making it happen here, for giving us opportunities to bring this sort of discussion to our community. And that's what's nice about this. It's a live audience here, but people are watching beyond this room. So I know we're live streaming it, and I know there's some live streaming going on here. When you get back, you want to share this message, click on share and share it with your friends and spread the message. Keep spreading it, and that's how the word gets out. And these discussions are very, very meaningful and very important. Our final speaker, Coach Carmen Duncan. Carmen, are you here, Coach Carmen? Coach Carmen, okay, Coach Carmen. Social entrepreneur and the founder of Mission Accomplished Transition Services, a nonprofit that supports students in high school through college on a path to entrepreneurship. The program pairs students with coaches to come alongside to motivate them in the planning of their future and to pursue opportunities to accomplish their goals and dreams. Carmen is a committee member of the Capital District Chapter Board of the New Leaders Council, a mentor with the Sponsor a Scholar program, very popular program, doing great things, a member of the YWCA of the Capital Region Special Events Committee, active member of both the Albany Junior League and the Catholic Charities Disability Service Advisory Board of Directors. She was acknowledged by the Black Women's Association of Albany as a Woman of Distinction and one of the YMCA's of the Greater Capital Region Resourceful Women of the Year. She's one of the top 40 up-and-coming executives who was shaped the future who named to shape the future in 2016 and recognized also in that same year as a Women of Achievement Award honoree by the Women's Women's Employment and Research Center, and as one of the 40 change makers by the Center of Women in Government in Civil Society. It's a pleasure to have Coach Carmen with us here today. Let's give her a big round of applause, everybody.
I want to thank everybody that helped me. I was feeling a little lightheaded, so my partner went downstairs and got me some water, and then I asked for some stuff, so now I'm sitting instead of standing like everybody outside. Thank y'all. So again, my name is Coach Carmen. My full name is Carmen Nicole Duncan. Look at that, I shared my first name in public. My middle name in public for the first time. I established Mission Accomplished Transition Services in 2012 when I graduated with a master's in social work from the University at Albany. A place that I would have never imagined that I would have been. So I'm going to take you back a little bit just to share where I started and what helped me get to where I am today. So I was born in Dutchess County. I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York. I lived in the city of Poughkeepsie up until I was about 8, and then I moved to Wappingers Falls. And then from Wappingers Falls, I moved to Spackenkill, New York. And then from Spackenkill, I moved to Albany. So I had the privilege of living in a few seemingly opposite worlds. So I lived in the suburbs of Spackenkill, New York, and from 10 until about 16. And then I moved up here to Albany with my father. I am 1,000% a daddy's girl. I am 35, and if my father walked in here right now, y'all would think I was 5. So I was elated to be up here with my dad. But I did not get sent up here to my father by my mother just because I wanted to come and live with daddy. My mother sent me up here after someone pulled a gun on me in the city of Poughkeepsie, and I tried to fight the person. So over some time, once I got into my adolescence, and I really started to recognize all of the dysfunction, the mental health diagnosis, and the substance abuse that was happening in my family. I am the youngest out of all of my brothers and sisters. So I have 5 brothers and sisters, and then I have a whole bunch of other brothers and sisters because we all don't have the same mother and father, so we just call each other brothers and sisters because it's harder to explain the process than just saying this is my brother or sister. And all I seen was love. I was spoiled. I got whatever I wanted, and Christmases were great. And my birthday is on November 24th, so when Thanksgiving came around, everybody was around, and guess what I asked for? Money, and I got it. So as I started to learn that there was just so much that was going on in my family, I became angry. Because at that time, I was living in Spackenkill, and I had friends who were my age, and they were getting cars when they turned 16. And they had their own master bathroom in their homes. And I couldn't understand why my family was not able to give me the same thing. And I also couldn't understand why every weekend when I went to the city of Poughkeepsie that we were struggling. My family and my friends were struggling, but Monday through Friday, I was in a completely different world. So Mama sent me up here after a gun was pulled on me. And I moved up here pretty much doing the same thing. I didn't have my squad with me to, engage in street violence the way that I did back home. But I was still angry. You could take me out of the environment, but I was still hurt. I lost people, and I just couldn't understand. My father was sentenced to 8 years. My brother was sentenced 7 years to life, and my boyfriend at the time was sentenced to 15 years. All within a year and a half of me moving up here, and that resulted in me being homeless in 11th grade and about close to 17 years old. So I bounced between houses for several months, Washington Park was a place that I chilled until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning until I decided to go knock on somebody's window to let me in. And then I had some people at Albany High School who believed in me enough to help me. And I call these people my mentors, my coaches, and my sponsors. So they helped me learn about Equinox. Who knows about Equinox in Albany? Okay. So Equinox has a transitional living program for youth in a runaway homeless system. And I was fortunate enough to be accepted into the program because of everything that was happening to me at that time. So I was in my own apartment as an 11th grade student and had to manage a household the way that many adults sitting in this room right now has to manage a household while going to school and maintaining grades so that I could actually graduate on time. And unfortunately, no matter how many times I asked my mother to move up here, because I was by myself, she would not move up here. And she actually never even walked into the house that I was living at the time before I moved into the independent living program. So, abandonment, self-hate, low self-worth, a lack of understanding. However, I persevered. So, for those mentors and those coaches and those sponsors that are sitting in this room, know that you make a difference. So I always cry when I talk about my story, because of course everyone who has ever gone through a traumatic experience, we know that we never truly tell everything that has happened, right? So I'm not apologizing for my tears. I'm very unapologetic about it. However, I still like to explain. So now I'm going to talk about collective leadership as Coach Carmen, the chief coach and founder of Mission Accomplished Transition Services. Mission Accomplished is a not-for-profit organization that is mainly based in Albany, New York. Our mission is to prepare aspiring young professionals for the global economy by providing access to coaching, job training, and professional development. And we do that by providing mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship, because that is the lifeblood that has brought me in front of you today. So it started out with little old me and my big voice of, I'm gonna do this thing, and my resilience is going to live, and my trauma is going to push me, and my loving parents who showed me a lot through all that I experienced. They loved me and they did the best that they could. So through mentorship, we informally assist students with navigating through their personal and their professional lives. Through coaching, we engage a task results-oriented process to support individuals with developing specific goals and achieving them with the support of a network who truly believes in what it is that they want to do. And through sponsorship, we open our little black book to make sure that our students gain access to opportunities that are aligned with the goals that they have. So when I was in graduate school, I really, really learned what it meant when people say there's a marriage between what you know and who you know. I have not interviewed for a job since I was 24. And that was really because I had people who just connected me to powerful people, and I would just go and talk to them about what it is that I want to do, and they would like make positions for me. And I realized that the people who were making positions for me, they actually created positions to make sure that I was paid while they taught me. How powerful is that, right? That's economic development. That goes beyond sponsorship. So as the chief coach and founder of Mission Accomplished, and as a community leader in the Capital Region, I am also going to talk with you about collective leadership and what it means for me. It's about being intentional and calculated. When you are engaging in activities that are supporting your community. And sometimes we could be reckless. So what? If it gets the job done, as long as you're not really hurting anyone in the process. But it's also still about being intentional about what it is that you are doing once you figure out that you're being a little reckless. Removing barriers. So as the leader within, or one of the leaders within my organization, so Mission Accomplished started with just me as a volunteer. I invested a lot of my own money into the organization. I now have a team of 6. I'm full-time, and I have another full-time staff person, and I have 5 other individuals who are part-time. I am not the only person who makes decisions within Mission Accomplished. Just because I found the organization doesn't mean that I'm the full voice of the organization. So I make sure to remove those barriers when I'm working with my team, to ask them to lead me sometimes. I don't know everything. And a lot of times leaders are looked at as heroes instead of hosts. And really what we do and what we're supposed to be doing in our position is working with our team and working with the community and not feeling like we have this superhero complex. Engaging in shared responsibility is also what I just talked about, and helping individuals truly realize their potential. Someone helped me understand that tomorrow I didn't have to sit in my classroom in 11th grade and wonder if I was gonna live tomorrow, and that I was worth so much more than that. And as Kahim mentioned earlier, as a young lady who lost the 3 men who took care of me, I naturally looked for people who held trophies over my head. And once people found out, or once there were gentlemen, well, men or boys who found out that my protection was not around, they tried to take advantage. Sustainability. In order to sustain any initiative that makes sense, that invests in the community, and supports all that we want to happen, you cannot be the only brain trust of that initiative. You cannot hoard a whole bunch of information and sit on it because you're afraid that somebody's gonna come and take what it is that you've developed or that you've dreamed up. If it's truly about community and it's truly about legacy building, you need to share. And yes, it may take time away from the work that needs to get done, that we're so worried about doing, but it's important because it's about mentoring, coaching, and sponsoring the next generation of leaders. And that next generation of leader does not have to be a 10-year-old student that you're working with. It could be me as a 35-year-old entrepreneur working with someone who's 50 years old and wants to start their own company and just wants to understand how to make it happen. Checking in and checking up So we get really busy, right, in doing the work that we do. As a collective, it's important that we stop for a moment and just check in on each other. So there are some people who are around or are around me and in my immediate circle or kind of my distant circle who I've reached out to, and I could be sitting at a stoplight and I just send some hearts, right? Because I think about that at the time. Or you have people in your network who you don't even talk to, and they reach out to you and say, "You are so amazing." If no one hasn't told you that today, let me tell you. Damani ends up in my inbox regularly. We haven't talked on the phone in probably 6 months. But I will get a message from him. And sometimes it could be years that since Damani and I have chatted. And he will send a message because it's about supporting each other. It's about being collective in the process. And then showing up and showing out. We all showed up today, and we all showed out today. So thank you, 518 Talks, for allowing me to share my story, allowing me to share a little bit of my brain trust, and allowing me to cry on your stage.
Okay, I think that's the show, right? How about another round of applause for all of our speakers? Keto, Jamaica, Shaheem. Who am I forgetting? Coach Carmen, of course, Coach Carmen and Kareem, the poems in the beginning. Let's give them a big round of applause. And we have to thank Will, and you're going to close out the show. So let's give Will another big welcome. Thanks, Will, for letting me host today, to be a part of this. You are my friend, and you are a friend of the community. Thank you, Will. God bless.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
I want to say thank you to all the sponsors. Thank you to you guys coming out this evening. Thank you to the speakers. You guys are absolutely amazing. I'd like to thank Brendan. You're awesome. Thank you for help making. Let's give Brendan a round of applause. Over here, let's give JJ a round of applause, one of the young men that I work with. In the next 2 years, he's going to be up here running these, and I'm going to be sitting in the back because that's what this is really all about, is creating platforms so that our youth can learn how to express themselves creatively, and that's in everything I do. I thank you guys for coming out. Also, I would like to say, right, Eugene, you guys see these wonderful Godfidence hat I have on, the hat and the shirt. I do have some on the side. If you're interested in some, let me know. Also, stay tuned for the next 518 Talks. I believe we're going to be in either May or June, so stay tuned for that. And one of our speakers, maybe two of our speakers, may already be in the room. I'm pretty sure at least two of them are here. I thank you guys for coming out, and have a great night.